countdown for blast-off. X minus 5, 4, 3, 2, X minus 1, fire.
I's tellin' you, Lazar, it ain't no picnic being around Mervin and MT for any duration of time. Those two can make a bear crazy, you know. It ain't bad enough that they yell at each other all hours of the day and night, but when they's yellin' at the same time, it's enough to make a bear's head explode. You ain't never heard such a racket, Lazar, ever.
I've paid Mervin a visit a few times over the last few weeks. Lately, he's become obsessed with checkers. I'm more of an Uno guy myself, but I don't mind a few games once a week. But even those games become a chore if MT enters the room while we are playing. As soon as I hear that high-pitched squeal of his, I know the game's over. It won't be long before the checkerboard is broken over MT's head, which is why I'm not surprised that you're doing this favor for Mervin. At least in doing it, it got you out of his house.
That ain't the reason, Lazar. I likes Mervin, I really do. He's the smartest person in Waterford. If only he'd allow himself to see himself that way. All this talking like a raccoon he does, his hiding out in that house of his, I's just hoping that somewhere along the line, well, if he can get used to having Orville around, maybe he'll venture out of his house and start being a more carefree person. If somehow we can use this cloak of hidden beauty obsession of his to get him to step foot outside his house, then all this trouble we've gone through will be worth it. I don't know really that it will work out like that, but Mervin's too nice a guy to abandon to Orville and his mother alone. There's got to be something we can do to get him to be more sociable.
You think if he could tolerate Captain MT, then he'd be able to tolerate anyone. Are they still talking raccoon to each other?
Well, Mervin is still talking only in raccoonese, but MT gave it up some time back. I think Mervin amused him at first as well, but after all these weeks of having to live with Mervin, the amusement has died down quite a bit. I think, at most, Orville is tolerating Mervin, until he can find a way to escape Ariel's force field anyway.
Do you think he'll be able to escape it? It's still all around Mervin's house, isn't it?
Yeah, it's there all right. Every morning Orville goes outside and touches it, just to make sure it's still there, you know. It still is. I don't know how long, though. I can't contact Ariel anymore. I can't contact the giant mutant monster beast anymore, either. Without the communicator, I can't contact Commander Swirly. So for the time being, we's on our own with Orville. So long as the force field remains up, it's not a big problem. But should it ever come down, then we's got a real issue to deal with.
I hate to think of the damage Captain MT could do if you were able to get a hold of any of his inventions. Well, the show has started, Bunson. We might as well go in. No use sitting around out here until it's over. We might as well enjoy ourselves while we wait.
As no, Lazar. As no. It's just that I hate being in an enclosed environment with Ollie. It's bad enough being outside with him, but spending a few hours inside with him, that's just cruel and unusual torture. Are you sure he's in there?
I talked to Ollie this morning, and he said he was going to the Michigan Festival at the Waterford Theater. You know how Ollie loves old films. He's one of our show's biggest fans. With these old films being about Michigan, well, he couldn't wait to get down here.
Chances are he's the only one in there, too. It never changes, Lazar. Never. It don't matter if a theater is full when the show opens. By the time it closes, there's only one person left watching the movie, Ollie. This day started out so nice. I was with Ginny, watching over the tots, listening to the radio. Now, I's got to go sit with Ollie until this festival is done played out.
We could just sit out here and wait, Bunson.
How long is this here festival running, Lazar?
About 5 hours, give or take a half hour.
I ain't sitting on the curb for no 5 hours, Lazar. Even if it is half over, I still not sitting out here that long. We might as well head in, get a ton of buttered popcorn, some extra large sodas, and hope the smell of the amenities will drown out Ollie's personal enhancements of what's on the screen. Let's head in, Lazar. But if it gets to be too awful, I's coming up for air, and a popcorn refill every 10 minutes till this screening is finished.
Michigan background of the motion picture version of last year's bestseller, Anatomy of a Murder, demands Detroit as the scene for its gala world premiere, bringing to the auto capital some of the Hollywood principals responsible for Otto Preminger's dramatic adaptation. Among them, Lee Remick, the female star of Anatomy of a Murder, lawyer Joseph N. Welch, actor Arthur O'Connell, and producer-director Preminger, with Mrs. Welch accompanying the barrister-turned-actor. Inspiring a whirlicane of socials such as this press club luncheon, where Miss Remick hears Mr. Preminger thank the citizens of the state for their cooperation during the filming of the picture on locations in Upper Michigan. Also, this Rotary Club luncheon honoring Mr. Welch, who before making his debut as the judge in Anatomy of a Murder was a nationally famous Bay State lawyer. Then there was this Freedom Festival luncheon at which Michigan Supreme Court Justice John Volker, the author of Anatomy of a Murder, Broadway actor George Scott, a local boy, and Lee Remick received keys to the city from Mrs. Lewis Morani, as Mr. Preminger again expresses his gratitude. A civic parade, too, marks the excitement, and Governor G. Menon Williams and his wife escort producer-director Preminger through the acclaim of Detroit's multitudes. The Skirl of Highland Bagpipers salutes the Anatomy of a Murder premiere at the United Artists Theater, which is besieged by crowds long before the scheduled opening, to which Mr. Preminger brings Governor and Mrs. Williams and the film's fashion coordinator, Hope Bryce. Lee Remick is escorted to the gala by Louis C. Morani, mayor of the auto capital, while Arthur Volker, whose pen name is Robert Traver, is attended by a Freedom Festival queen, as is Arthur O'Connell, who supports James Stewart, the male star of the film. Detroit's own George Scott brings his family. Lawyer Thespian Welch and his wife also attend the premiere, which will benefit the Detroit chapter of the American Association for the United Nations, while producer-director Preminger receives the congratulations of Walter Reuther. A night of nights for a worthy cause, and Otto Preminger's most worthy Anatomy of a Murder. Last year's #1 bestseller, this year's, we hope, #1 motion picture.
I just don't know how Lazar can stand it. I just got to come out here every 10 minutes to get a breath of fresh air. But Lazar, he just goes merrily along eating his popcorn as if he didn't notice anything unusual. How that line can focus on food to the exclusion of all else is a mystery to me. We's almost there, almost there. Just one more flick, just one more, and then this torture is over. Ollie will come out here, then Lazar and I can question him with what we's come here to ask him. Just one more flick, just one more film, just one more. Well, to heck with it. I's not going back in there unless the theater was on fire. I's sitting out here until Lazar and Ollie come out. There's only so much a bear can do for friendship. I's done it, and more besides. I's sitting out here and enjoying the fresh air, as we's meant to. Not whatever kind of air that invisible demon is letting loose inside that theater. Yes, Bunson Bear's sitting here. Much better. What was I thinking? Nobody could survive an enclosed environment like that. Nobody but Lazar, anyway.
Who will be next to launch Man in Space?
Me!
And so can you with Deluxe Man in Space set. You get a rocket launcher, defense base, and 3 different nose cones. Up goes the astronaut to the top of the launcher. The gantry moves in. The space capsule is locked on the mighty Atlas rocket. Blast off! There he goes! Man in space! Enemy bombers approaching. Flash the alert. Open fire!
Deluxe Man in Space, complete with missile base. With astronaut and satellite, you send them into flight. 3, 2, 1, fire! Deluxe Man in Space.
Wow! What a toy! Deluxe Man in Space is sold only at food markets.
3, 2, 1, blast off. She's up. Come in ideal countdown control. Ready for second launching.
Atlas moving into position.
Fuel her up.
All set.
Count down.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off! There she goes!
Yes, you can be in command of your own ideal countdown. It's a real electronic missile base. You sit at the controls and move missiles into place. You count down. You blast off. You track the flight. The ideal countdown comes complete with moon missile and lunar probe, as well as a giant atlas. Get your electronic ideal countdown now, wherever good toys are sold.
It's a wonderful toy. It's ideal.
We'll return to our story in just 1 minute, Rangers. Rangers, did you ever think what it would be like traveling along in an open car without a windshield? Boy, you wouldn't go very far before you got all splattered with mud. And you'd have to keep your eyes closed so as not to be blinded by the dust. Well, when you're traveling along in life, Rangers, common sense acts as a pretty important windshield. It lets you see where you're going. And at the same time, it keeps you from getting splattered by the mud of prejudice. Now, suppose you've made pals with some fella. Maybe he goes to a church that's different from yours, or his folks come from a different country, or his skin is of a different color. Will these differences get in your way? Of course not. Heck, you know what he's like inside. You know he's fun to be with. He likes the same games and goes for the same hobbies and sticks up for you like a real pal. Well, that's how your common sense acts as a windshield, Rangers. As long as you use it, no one can throw dust in your eyes. Now let's get back to our story.
Bunson, where did you go? You missed the entire last film. It was a good one, too. It had a lot of old scenes out of Detroit. We should try to get something like it for our show someday. Why do you leave?
Why'd I leave? Are you all right, Lazar? Didn't you notice Ollie's effect on the theater?
Oh, sure, but I'm used to that.
What do you mean used to it? How could anyone get used to an odor that powerful, that sick, that disgusting? Not to mention the sounds. Why, every 3 minutes it was like a thundercloud had burst open and was about to drown us in another worldwide flood.
You've never been over to my house when my Uncle Simon pays us a visit, have you? Why, all night. It's a competition between his snoring and his...
I get it, Lazar. I just don't remember your Uncle Simon. He must not come around anymore. I don't remember ever meeting him.
That's because every time he slept over, on whatever bed he used, we'd have to throw it out when he left. There was no way anyone could ever sleep on it again. He's got intestinal issues, you know.
He ain't the only one. Why, speak of the devil. Hi, Ollie.
Hi, Bunson. Hi, Lazar. Did you two enjoy the film festival? Wasn't it a gas?
I couldn't have described this afternoon better myself, Ollie.
You two guys should really look into these old Michigan films. See if you can find any more to play in your show. After all, this is right up your alley, isn't it? I never miss one of your shows, Lazar. Every week I sit down in front of the TV for a good half hour and let myself be enveloped by the past.
Oh, man, this is torture. Just torture.
What do you say, Bunson?
He just said what I was gonna say. You betcha, Ollie. We'll look at getting some Michigan films on the show in the future. You know we film far in advance, so it might be a while before they air.
I could use some air myself.
Bunson, please.
So, what are you two doing here today? When I talked to you this morning, Lazar, you said you didn't want to see the festival today. What changed your mind?
Bunson called me up and said he needed to talk to you. Since I knew where you were, I tagged along while we went to see you.
Oh, really? What do you want to see me about, Bunson?
About as short as time as possible. Excuse me, Ollie. I just had something caught in my throat. Have you ever heard of something known as the Cloak of Hidden Beauty? If so, do you know if it actually exists?
Well, for a long time the Cloak of Hidden Beauty was thought to be an old wives' tale. For centuries nobody had actually seen the cloak, since it was talked about in the pioneering legends of Michigan and the other states around the Great Lakes. It seemed as if it got its power from the water around here. and if it was ever taken away, it just became another cloak. But then somewhere over the last few centuries, it just stopped being talked about. Until the last 50 years or so, it was just one of those old wives' tales that come up in conversation sometimes. Then something happened about 50 years ago that brought it back into the limelight as something that was possibly real.
What happened, Ollie? Why did people start to believe in it again?
There was this explorer, a crazy old man by the name of Ernest Navigo, who took all the old legends seriously. He spent his whole life investigating the legitimacy of the tales. Most he proved were false. Then, when he was around 50 years ago, after many years of investigating the Cloak of Hidden Beauty, he vanished.
He's not the only one who wants to vanish. I don't know how much more I can take of this, Lazar.
Bunson, please, just a few more minutes. What happened, Ollie? Did he die?
If he had to put up with anything like this, I'll bet he wished he had. That's just it. Nobody knows. One day he was at his house making plans for an expedition. The next, his house was left wide open, but he was gone. His front door wide open, his windows open, his dinner still on the table, not eaten. He had just vanished, and he was never heard from again.
If he was never heard from again, how do you know his disappearance had anything to do with the Cloak of Hidden Beauty?
Among his effects in his carry-all was a map of Waterford. It had been made 100 years earlier at least, maybe more, but it showed an area at the end of a long tunnel. It said the final resting place of the Cloak of Hidden Beauty.
Final resting place? It was alive? Why would it need to be buried?
That's just it, Lazar. It's one of the many mysterious things surrounding the Cloak of Hidden Beauty. But if it still exists, chances are it still exists right where Ernest Navigo said it did. Unless he went down and got it. But if he did, why didn't he take any tools, or food, or water, or anything? If he did go after it, he surely died.
He's not the only one dying.
Why do you say that, Ollie?
Because the people went to check out the tunnel and see if they could find him. The support beams were all dry-rotted. They'd all collapsed. There was nothing holding up the tunnel anymore, just its habit of existing. If anyone enters the tunnel and makes the slightest noise, it's going to collapse. The Cloak of Hidden Beauty might offer power to those who find it, but nobody has gone and risked their life on something that may or may not even exist. So if it does exist, it's still down there.
I'm going to collapse if we don't get out of here, Lazar. I can't take any more.
Just a minute, Bunson, please. Where is the tunnel, Ollie?
It's under Waterford, out by the lake. There's a cave hidden under a bunch of bushes. That's the entrance to the tunnel. The rock only goes a few feet in. After that, it's pure terror. Nothing, not one thing, holding up what lay beyond. Only a fool would go in there.
I thought I knew pure terror, but this... How can a tunnel be under Waterford, Ollie, when there's only water under Waterford?
The tunnel goes down below the water. At least that's what Navigo's map said. So when you're down there, you have all of Waterford's water on top of you, and solid rock beneath you. One sound, and all that water comes smashing it down into the rock. And whoever is in there is a goner. What's your interest in this, Bunson? You're not thinking of going into the tunnel, are you?
Me? No way. My adventuring days are over. I was just checking this out for a friend is all.
Ah, well, I hope I helped. Be sure to say hi to Mervin for me when you go back to see him. Tell him I'll be over for checkers one of these days. Just as soon as he gets rid of that bald freak. I can't stand that dude's voice at all. See yous, Bunson. See yous, Lazar.
How do you suppose he knew it was Mervin that sent me here? Anyway, it don't matter none. I was just glad this is over. I told Mervin that this counts as 10 favors, but this afternoon ain't ever gonna be repaid. There's nothing that Mervin could do to make up for the sheer misery of this afternoon. There's not one thing. No, not one, not ever.
Are you heading back to Mervin's now, Bunson, to let him find out what we learned?
Not on your life, Lazar. I's going home. I's supposed to have dinner with my parents and Ginny tonight at a nice restaurant, and I's can't go smelling like this. I's got to have a shower beforehand. As I am now, nobody would even let me into a restaurant, much less eat at one.
Well, I suppose the news can wait another day. It's not like there's anyone crazy enough to go into the tunnel and try to see if the Cloak of Hidden Beauty is actually there, even if they knew we were looking for it too.
You said it, Lazar. I'll see yez later. I's got to wash this day off of me before the stench sinks in. I'll give you a call later. Bye now.